Was that cat?
It is. It's my
I,
little baby.
can you hear my dog? I have a chihuahua. I was like, hoping he'd stay still. Didn't bark.
It's totally fine. My dogs sometimes interrupt the show. Oh, hey everybody, it's your girl Lucky Wood. Welcome to the Lucky Ones podcast. We are joined tonight by a living legend herself, Miss Carolyn Pyle. We're super excited. She used to pull under a different name, so you might know her by her current name, but you might know her even better as the name that was on the top four list, Caroline Libel. So we're super
Legal.
Libel.
Legal.
I forgot to ask. I didn't ask.
It's legal.
So welcome in. We're so happy to have you. Um, so tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what got you into the sport of arm wrestling.
First, I want to thank you for what you do, for what you're doing for the women in arm wrestling. It's amazing. They've never had any kind of like a platform like this. So I just want to thank you so much for this. And I thank you for having me on here. I got started in 1983. I'd always been kind of a big girl and strong. And I was watching TV one day and there was a tournament or something on Wild World of Sports. And it had a guy named Wes Atkinson. And he was from Tyler, Texas. So I was living in Rusk, Texas. I looked him up in the phone book, called him, and he told me to come up there and see if I had the potential to even try arm wrestling, and then the rest is history. I wouldn't be where I am today without starting with Wes. And he just got inducted into the Texas Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's all. Did that happen this weekend?
Yes, this past weekend. Yes.
That's awesome. That's
Yes. So I went to my first tournament at Lufkin Mall. The first person I ever pulled in an official way was Karen Bean, and little bitty short thing about that big around. And she she took my wrist back and I bring it back and I couldn't put her down. I'm like, what is going on? I finally beat her, but it gave me a big wake up call. This little bitty thing was beating me. So then afterwards I asked her, okay, what do I need to do? So then that started the progress right there. Kind of gets in your blood and gets you hooked. And it's a expensive hobby, but it's a family of people that you can be friends with forever.
I love that. That's so fun. Yeah, Mama Karen's she's something else. I came in later in the game, so I never really got to see her pull, but just by the way she talks about the sport, she knows what she's doing.
She knows exactly what she's doing. She's been one of the first women referees in professional arm wrestling. If not the first, I think she was the first woman referee, and she has
Oh wow.
proved her medal for sure. She's an
That's
excellent referee, knows this sport back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. I get the pleasure of hanging out with her when I go down to Alabama.
Right.
And I get to see her when I do sit downs or Alabama State, and she keeps those brackets and she keeps those pullers on point.
She does. She
You don't
does.
want to you don't want to get on you don't want to get on the other side of Mama Karen.
Trust me, you really don't.
I love it. But that's awesome. So when you started out, did you just start out with going to tournaments and then working out, or was it like tournaments? Did you get table time with like a team?
No, I lived in such a little rural small town in East Texas that there wasn't that much around me. For about 6 months, I went to Wes's house about once a week when I first started
Okay.
to work out with him. I didn't have any gym, I didn't have any workout equipment or anything. So I went about once a week up to Wes's house for him to kind of teach me some things. And the main thing I had was a stick with a rope on it attached to like a gallon of milk. And I would roll that up and roll it back. I would work on that wrist. And that was one of the first exercises I ever started doing. And then later on, I got into gyms and a complete workout. So yeah.
That's awesome. So when you first started out, were there weight classes back then, or did ladies just pull themselves?
No,
Everybody pulled everybody.
mostly they had two weight classes. They had like a 0 to 140 or 146, and then 146 and up, which was unfortunate. At one point, they finally got a third weight class, which was like 165 and up or 185 and up, depending on the organization. But yeah, I at times when I would walk into a tournament in Texas, there would be some other, after about 6 months or so or more, there'd be some other girls signed up and they would quit. They wouldn't go. They wouldn't even pull when I showed up. So that was kind of disappointing. So I basically started having to travel because I didn't have anybody in Texas. I didn't have any competition in Texas. I'd go to
Right.
a tournament and have nobody to pull. So that's why I ended up started traveling mostly.
Nice. Well, we definitely want to hear all about your travels. Um, what has been kind of like your favorite thing that you've either gained from the sport or the sport has taught you, or your favorite thing about the sport?
Um, oh my goodness, there's so many that I don't know if I can list all of them. My favorite thing is the sense of family that you get. When I came in, I didn't know any of these people that were arm wrestling, and they just accepted me and took me under their wing and lifted me up. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I could go almost to any state to a tournament, and they all knew me, and it was a really good feeling. And I still have friends in I don't know how many different states that I still talk to today from back in 83 and 84 when I first started. So, and some of these names that are still around, I was pulling with them like Ron Bath and Craig Choulier. I've got a picture of him when he first started. So
Oh,
yeah, some of these names, yes, I was right there with them.
did you ever see somebody like back in the day and be like, they're gonna go super far?
Oh yeah, the first time I met Dot Jones, I don't know if you know her. She was a
Yeah.
big puller out in California. The first time I met her, I thought, oh my gosh, she was massive. I thought she flashed me like I wasn't there, but there's a video that shows that I did hold her for like a split second before she splashed me. But I've always had a big, big, big respect for her. Never beaten her, never beaten her. There's been all kinds of women coming up. Mary McConaughey, she was a force to be reckoned with. Grace Ann Swift. Now, Grace Ann and I pulled together for several years, and then she lost weight and got out of my weight class just because of that. And then she became dominant in her weight class, and then I was still dominant in mine.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can't be a very good female arm wrestler if you don't know who Miss Dot Jones is.
Oh, this is true. This is true. This is true. And she
No,
is as good as good as she was back then. She was very good.
definitely. So when you weren't arm wrestling, what were you up to? Or and like now that you're kind of like enjoying life, what are
Yes, I'm
you
retired
finding
now. Back in the day
finding you're doing in your free time?
when I first started arm wrestling, I was a school bus driver in Klein, Texas, and I drove a school bus, and so all these people that I worked with then they knew all about me and everything, and so they were my encouragement at home. It's like I'd go to a tournament and come back, and I'd have to tell them all about it or whatever. Um, I just I don't know. The camaraderie of the sport is the most beneficial thing that you get. You get that feeling of family. You get to know people. And for years, I did the school bus driving. And that's pretty much the whole time I was arm wrestling. That's what I was doing. I did work at a Rush State Hospital when I first started. But now, once I became a nurse, I wasn't arm wrestling anymore. I stopped in 91 was my last tournament at Houston. They had a stand up nationals again, and that was my last tournament. I was pregnant with my oldest, and so that's pretty much it. I stopped after that. I
Gotcha.
missed it a lot. I did miss it a lot, but I had kids, so I was doing that thing, and then I went to nursing school and became a nurse, and so finished out my career as a nurse, and still would go to tournaments sometimes. And when the kids grew up, when Game of Arms came out, they watched Game of Arms and they were like, "Oh wow, we want to arm wrestle." And I told them, I said, "I've been your mother your whole life, and you just now talking about wanting to arm wrestle. What is up?" So yeah, that's that. My oldest Matthew, he's the one that got most into it. Both of them could arm wrestle. Both of them were very strong, but Matthew kind of got the most into it. And about 3 years ago, for about 2 or 3 years, he was pretty much active in the sport around the area, and he was pretty good. So I still have a deep down wish that he would get back into it again, so I could go to tournaments and watch.
Exactly. We gotta keep it in the
I love to go to
family.
tournaments and watch. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And
Tim
he has
Collins,
a built-in coach with you.
he don't listen to me. They neither one of them listen to me. I was just mom. Tim Collins was pulling from back in the day. I just saw him this weekend. He was telling me that he had, because Matthew would go to tournaments where I wasn't there, and Tim met him and said, "I knew your mama," and he said, "Do you know what your mom, what your mom did?" And Matthew's like, "No, not really." He said, "Do you know what you have and having her for a mom?" "No, not really." He said, "Man, your mom was awesome." He said, "She was just mom to me." So that's what you get when you're the mom.
Fair. But you and my coach can share stories about not getting listened to because sometimes I don't listen to him either and
You don't listen to him either, huh? Yeah,
no.
exactly.
You don't
Exactly.
know. You don't know. You don't know what you talk about. 32 years in the sport.
Exactly.
You don't know.
I had a little kid that's only been to about 5 tournaments sitting by me at the tournament Saturday, and I don't know, I guess he thought I was a grandma, and he just kind of, was a young boy and gravitated to me, and so he'd come back and I'd tell him something, and he'd grab up with me, and he tried to, try to pull. He goes, "Oh my gosh, you're strong." I said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" He said, "No, ma'am." Well, he's like adopted me after that, I think.
Oh,
His name was Nathaniel. He was a sweetheart.
oh, hi Nathaniel. Stay in the sport, buddy. But I mean, but that just goes to show, like, just how quickly people, how this one sport it um goes across the generations. Like it
It does.
doesn't matter, your background, your age, your culture. Like, you get a group of arm wrestlers, and arm wrestling is what puts us all on like the same playing field, and that's what we can talk about.
Same
That's
time
what we can enjoy.
That is exactly right. Exactly right. And when you got a group of old timers like we had this weekend, we had the most fun. And you got people that come up to us that they didn't really, the arm wrestlers now don't really know the history as well. That's why the arm wrestling, the Texas Arm Wrestling Hall of Fame is so good right now, because it's letting them know the people that started out in this sport, and that are basically the reason that they're still having arm wrestling. We started out at the originals, and like Wes, he's the reason there's arm wrestling now, pretty much in Texas. And so he got inducted. James Anderson, he's pulled for, he got inducted this past weekend too. And Gary Ray, all of those that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame had a definite influence into the sport of arm wrestling.
That's awesome. I love it. So you mentioned that you had a stick with a milk jug and you would twist it up and twist it
I
down.
would roll that booger up and roll it back. And that was the very first workout apparatus that I had. And I had to make it myself. But then,
That's
like,
super inventive though. I love the
oh,
innovation is
oh
admiring.
yeah, I had to do something. I didn't have access to a gym, but once I got to Houston, I moved to Houston to be closer to tournaments and be closer to airports and stuff like that, so I could travel. Because after about 6 months of arm wrestling, I had won Southwest US Open in '84, I believe, and then I couldn't pull anymore in amateurs. And Wes told me one day, he said, I went to a tournament and got there, and he said, "You can't pull today. It's an amateur tournament." I said, "What do you mean I can't pull? I've only been doing this 6 months." "You can't pull because you won Southwest US Open. So the next thing you need to do is go to Memphis and go to the WPAA World." So at 6 months into the sport, I went to Memphis, Tennessee, and pulled in WPAA World Tournament. I ended up getting third place to some very strong women. I had several to pull. The first thing I did when I walked in was saw Johnny Walker.
Oh wow.
And I mean, he was an icon in the sport. And I thought I was like a kid in a, candy store. It's like, oh my gosh, I've seen him on TV. I saw all these people that I'd seen on TV, and I was just amazed, little country girl from little Podunk Rush, Texas, and I was amazed. And that pretty much started the journey, because after that, I got third place there, and I trained with Wes for a almost a full year, pretty much close. And then I started training more and more to get ready for the next WPAA World, because I decided I was going to win it the next year. And it was in 1984, I guess. Maybe the first one was '83. At the '84 uh, state tournament, or the world tournament, or whatever, I can't even remember what it was called, in New Orleans. Went there, and that's when I got the first world tournament. I mean, the first world championship, the WPAA World in New Orleans, and we had a good time. And
That's
it
awesome.
was incredible to get that too. And then it just went from there. Then I started going to nationals, and 6 years in a row was stand up national champion. And then 3 of those years, I was also the sit down national champion. So that's how I ended up with the one world and the 9 national championships. And then 1990, I won world in Houston, and that's the 2 world championships and 9 national titles, to toot my own horn.
No, toot it, girl. That's what we're
Oh,
here
that's
for.
loud.
Yeah. I definitely have worlds on my horizon.
There you
I would
go.
I would love it. And so, just learning a lot and, perfecting all the skills and little minute things that you have to work on when you
Exactly.
get to that
There's a
level.
lot of them. I really enjoyed getting to meet you when I went and see. I didn't go to Alabama to pull. I just went to Alabama to see Karen and Frank and Glenn, and it was a bonus to get to meet you and to kind of pull with you at sit down. I hadn't been on a sit down table since I won world, and I can tell you got a future ahead of you too. You just
Oh,
keep it up.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
but
very
I
well.
mean, for you to sit down since the world's and take some names and kick some butt, like you haven't lost it, lady.
I have lost it. I'm 65 years old, almost 66. I have lost.
Uh, there's
I
there's
look at
a
these girls
master's
now, and I'm
division
like,
for a reason.
oh my gosh. But I look at these girls, I haven't worked out in years. And if I could have what I had back then, I would give these girls a run for the money that are pulling right now. Like Elizabeth Mosick, oh my goodness. I want to pull her so bad, but not like I am now, not at this age. I want to pull her like I was back then.
There you go. Well, you can pull her for me when it's my
Uh,
turn at the round robin.
no, no, go ahead. You probably have a better chance than me right now.
Be like, this is all you, boo. No, we're excited. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of just the talent that is out there right now, and you see like the old school talent, you see like the talents that's now, and some of the old school ladies who are still pulling even now, the OGs and the veterans of the sport. And I mean, it's just incredible, some of just the skills that people bring to the table, and then also their own like personal styles too, how you can really turn the sport into your own. You can learn a lot from other people, but essentially like you're the one at the table, you're the one that has to do the work. um
Exactly.
so it's just been, I think, for me, like, just the atmosphere of being around a lot of different ladies at a lot of different tournaments, learning from you, getting to pull with Amanda in Alabama, the round robin last or back in May, the huge where was it? When I went to nationals, like
Hmm.
all that, like it's just incredible, and it's so fun. And
Oh, yeah.
and I hear on podcasts, and me and Mike talk about it a lot too, about just how arm wrestling is the only thing where they literally, you go up to the table as complete enemies, you want to destroy the person across from you, but then like you're walking away the table like, oh, let me show you how to beat me next time.
Yes, exactly,
This is what
exactly.
you need to work on. Like no other
I would
sport
I
does
would be
that.
so psyched up before a meet or before pulling somebody. Actually, when it came up time for my weight class, I'd be over in the corner somewhere and I'd be pacing back and forth. And every step, I just get more and more psyched up. And if I was fixing to pull somebody, I'd be looking at them. And I guess it was a bad look because I had one great fan Swift used to tell me, I can't stand it when you look at me like that. I just wish you wouldn't look at me. I said, that's how I'm psyching myself up. So it must have been pretty intense, but that was how I did. And when the boys started pulling, I thought, well, maybe I'll get back into this. But I pulled a couple of times at a tournament and everything. I just didn't have the drive and the anymore.
Right.
And I finally decided I don't have anything else to prove. I don't have to, I'm not gonna try to do this instead of I remembering being sore every day of the week from working out, and it takes a toll on you too. But I loved every minute of it.
Right. Tell us about your amazing bicep curl that you were talking to me about.
Oh, okay. One of the things in the last couple of years that I was arm wrestling, especially before World in '90. Um, Once I got to Houston, I got into gyms. Like I would go and I would either be a spot. I mean, they would be a sponsor for me. I'd like wear a shirt with their name on it, and that's how I'd get the gym membership sometimes. But anyway, I'd go to the gyms, and I drove a school bus, so I'd get off the bus at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to the gym. I'd stay at the gym till like 2 in the afternoon. I'd work out. I'd do aerobics and whatever. And then one of the things that I did was I'd get on my knees and be at like a bench. And I would do an 85-pound dumbbell curl. I'd do 10 reps of it with my right arm. Just hold my arm straight out, hold the dumbbell in my hand, and then just curl it 10 times and do 3 reps of 10 with that. And I couldn't do it with my left hand. Back in my day, we didn't have left-handed pulling.
Right.
So, if you were left-handed, you had to work your right hand and figure out a way to make it work. But fortunately, I was right-handed, so I didn't have to do that. But might have been a little lopsided sometimes. But at one point, my forearm, you couldn't even make an indention in it when I flexed it. It was so tight and so hard, but not anymore. But I would do wrist curls. What I would advise anybody right now that's getting into the sport is make sure you work your wrist. Sometimes people don't think about the wrist. In arm wrestling, you really need to work your wrist because when Karen first started with me, she was taking my wrist and taking it over this way, and I could pull it back, but then she'd take it that way. So that was one of the things I focused on was working on my wrist. And you do those wrist curls and you turn your hand the other way and you do curls that way. And you're doing the same thing when you're doing dumbbell curls. You're working your wrist too, but it's very important to make sure your wrist is strong.
Definitely. Definitely. I love it. How are you, Stephanie?
I just jumped in right. My weakest point is my wrist. If anybody has seen me pull, if you guys had seen me pull this weekend, I won the Mountain Queen, but every single time my wrist was like
Good
this, and
job.
I'm slipping. Oh, it's the strap. If it wasn't for the straps, yeah, it would be. I would not
Tell
be
us
good.
how
But
real quick, for the women's class, were there weight classes or was it like the Queen of the Mountain, like a round robin? Like,
they were gonna do
No, we
that
always
when
have
they
weight
found out
classes.
how many girls were there, but they did. There was a lightweight and a heavyweight class. Usual,
okay,
yeah,
cool. How many people were in your class?
3. So and Grace pulled up, but then so Grace won the lightweight and I won the heavyweight, and then me and her had a super match right and left for the Queen of the Mountain.
And you beat her both?
Yeah, but she was tough.
Oh no!
Tough.
Grace is no slouch. No, that's awesome.
And the crowd was all for her. People were like, bleed her out, make her tired. And then the guy in the mic's like, do something. And I was like, I was not tired. I've been putting in my work. I'm not tired at all.
That endurance paid off.
100%, it's the wrist. And so I went back to Grinder and I talked to Dave. I'm like, Dave, you got to give me a program because I got to change this up. And so he told me to hold the kettlebells kind of like this, like hold them and do like 30-second holds and then rest and then do it again. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to start putting in the work. I'm going to mix it in with my powerlifting stuff.
Awesome.
Girl, yeah. Make sure you are doing wrist curls. Just curl them wrists. Like I said, from up and then turn them and do them over. Just curl them wrists. That repetitive movement works that tendon and works those muscles there and builds them up.
Yeah, because once I got that, I'm going to be feeling pretty tough.
Stephanie's going to be unbreakable.
No, I have to lose 1,000,000 times. But that's the funnest part.
Well, lose 1,000,000 times before the round robin and then show up.
Yeah.
No, I love it. So you traveled a whole bunch, Miss Carolyn. Where's been kind of your favorite place to compete at?
Oh my goodness. I went to Boston several times. We had nationals there twice. That was a pretty cool place. We'd fly into Boston and we actually pulled in Taunton, Massachusetts. So that was good. I've been to California, been to Arkansas, Louisiana, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Ohio. Nationals was always somewhere off, and I did a lot of flying by myself. I had a great time. Just actually did.
Did you ever compete overseas anywhere?
No, I qualified for world overseas 9 times in a row, but I never could get the sponsorship for women back then was so hard. I drove a school bus. I didn't have the money. If I couldn't find a sponsor, I came really, really close to getting to go to England for world. And the person that told me, I'll get you there at the very 2 weeks before, it all fell through. You couldn't do it. I had a passport and everything, but I mean, that was, and in fact, in 1990, before I went to the world in Houston, I had stopped arm wrestling. I hadn't arm wrestled for 6 months because I thought I can't ever afford to go to the world. So, what am I doing? When I got a phone call from Karen Bean one day and she said, you need to go to Albany in New York to the sit down nationals. I said, why? And she said, because you need to qualify for world. I said, Karen, I can't. It doesn't matter if I qualify for world. I can't go. She said, you can go because it's going to be in your backyard. It's in Houston this year. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to do 6 months, undo 6 months of not doing anything to get ready to go to Albany and arm wrestle and qualify for the world, which fortunately I did. I was able to do that, but which is where, my favorite match I've ever had was against Mary McConaughey. You know, you sit down. You saw how sit down is yet in Alabama. She
Yep.
had me almost pinned. She had me almost to the pad, and I held her and held her and held her and held her, which was part of them bicep curls or them uh, dumbbell curls. Held her, and finally just kept on and kept on and kept on and brought her back and pinned her. Because in my mind, I thought if I let her beat me, then she's going to have it in her mind that she can beat me. So I just held on and then ended up winning. So I qualified for the world, and then I went to the world in 1990 and won.
Wow.
So,
Well, thank
yeah,
you to Karen Bean for getting you your world title.
absolutely. Absolutely. I owe a lot to Karen Bean. Karen and Frank both. Yes, they've been very, very influential in my arm wrestling career and friends for life right now. They're still some of my best friends.
I love it. That's so sweet. That's awesome. So, what you think the AAA should come back then?
I would love for the AAA to come back. Would
Nice.
love to see the AAA. Those were the tournaments. Those were some excellent tournaments at AAA.
Awesome. Awesome. I think a few people would agree with you 100%. Also, so we have the Beans, obviously Frank and Karen. Who's some, and then Wes, of course, too. Who are some other people that you kind of look up to in the sport? Or who are you kind of like watching now? Who's kind of like maybe a newer fish in the pond that you're just like, ooh, I kind of want to watch their progression.
Yeah, there's some. Of course, Ron Bath, he's still pulling. He was back, we both got Arm Wrestler of the Year in 1986. He got male and I got female. So we have a bond there that will last forever. But he's still pulling.
Right.
And there's several of the older people that are still pulling. Lindy Keaton, he's pulling. I think he pulls at least once a year. And his son Tucker I'm watching him. He's a very, very good, making very big strides in the sport. I don't know a lot of the women right now. I know a few. I mean, of course, I know Elizabeth. I see her pull, and Sarah. Yeah, I see Sarah pull. Um, I don't get to go as much and watch as much as I was when I was going and watching my son Matthew. But when Matthew was
Right.
doing it, I was getting to see, several others. Tim Popeye Killian, Danny Gillian. They're all old school though. So, but there's still some other ones that are coming up in the sport that are all going to be good.
Definitely. Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not going away anytime soon.
No, I don't think it is. And what you do is making it even better for the women. So, like I said, I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and people like yourself who come on the show, my amazing co-hosts who make it more enjoyable, so it's not just me ranting all the time. Like,
I have
it
to
truly
try
is a
my
group
hardest
effort.
not to interrupt. I'm like the queen of interruptions over here. So if I look boring, it's not because I don't want to say something. I don't want to
Please say
interrupt.
something.
I don't
You go
know.
ahead and interrupt.
I just want to sit and listen to your stories. Like I could sit here and listen to your stories all day. I bet we could just sit here and pick a theme and a subject and then tell you to tell us a story about it, and you probably have a good one.
I probably do. You're probably right. I probably do.
Did you have that sticky stuff that you would have to put on your hands to make them stick together?
We had Stickum. We had Stickum. I was more a fan of the chalk. I was more a chalk fan because Stickum, if it got wet, like if your hands were sweaty or something, it turned into like snot. So it was not, it
Ew.
was not, yeah, it was icky. It was icky. But I was more a fan of chalk. I mean, I'd have chalk all over me, all over the table, everywhere else, kind of still like they do today. But I was more of a fan of that. Just like everybody, I didn't like the strap. I didn't care for the strap too much, but tried to avoid the strap at all possible, but I did have to pull on the strap several times. But like I said, I have a story in every state I ever went to, probably, and I did go to a lot of states. Had lots of good times, lots of good times. So how long have you been in the sport?
I started in July of 2018.
There you go. That's good. Good.
Yeah.
So do
Yeah,
you travel a lot?
oh
Where do
my
you
God.
live? I'm not even sure where you live, Stephanie.
I live in San Diego.
Oh,
And
okay.
during COVID, I went everywhere. I can look back on my camera roll and see myself in a different place every weekend. Like the flights were really cheap, and I would drive up to LA, and my homeboy John Dable, like the craziest guy you would ever know. Like I would just go to park my car at his house, and me and him would go somewhere. Like we went all over. Like that was a really fun year for arm wrestling. I had but I always go to like the fit expos and stuff like that. Bill Collins tournaments, where it was where I started out with the pulling there. So
that was the first time I ever heard of Stephanie Spencer was at the Fit Expo. And they were trying to get me to show them early so I could pull her, and I was like, do you all hate me? Like I'm 2 months into the sport. I don't want to pull this beast 2 months into the sport.
Well, my youngest son was stationed in Oceanside, and he would go to Alan Fisher's house and work out with him, and pull with him sometimes. Stephanie, did you know Alan?
Yeah, I started over there with Alan, and then
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Alan moved away, so he left San Diego, but there's still guys who practice that call themselves Team Fisher. And I started practicing with Derek Smith for a while, and then I went over and practiced with the guys in Orange County, and now I'm just really kind of practicing at my gym. I haven't had a really good car to get out and travel to the other practices. And I've been thinking a lot about going and training with Vosgin and the guys at Mendy's gym. That's where I really feel like I can learn some stuff from those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
That was me. I didn't have any women that I could work out with. They're just what needed for me to work out with. And I pulled with a lot of guys, at practices and stuff. We go to all of their houses. We'd all, we'd have after pulls, after tournaments and stuff. And mostly what I did was pull with the guys. And I learned a lot from them.
Well, there's a bunch of college guys. They come on the first of the month over at Grinder Gym, and there's a huge group of these like young little skinny Asian guys, and they're perfect for me because they don't really do any sports. And I pull and I beat them up until they get better, and then they beat me. But then there's a group of more of them coming in, so I always look forward to pulling them. Yeah, but they only come like once a month. Yeah, and then actually. My favorite guy that was just knew what to do was he was a double amputee. So he had like two of the fake, what you call prosthetic legs on, but he still did the stand-up arm wrestling. And I would just get on the table and I only had two practices with him because he was, I don't know if he was from Europe or Middle East or something, but he came here to get his new legs. And so it's such a short time, but he knew exactly the pressure to give me. And I, over and over and over again. I wish he could come back because I bet he'd make me a lot better. One of my favorites, but you're right. The guys, they just want to beat you up. And then they always remind me when they were new that I beat them, and then they're laughing. Like, oh, Stephanie, you remember when I was new? Like, oh, look at this new guy, and then you beat me.
I've had guys that told me women don't arm wrestle. They don't work out the same. It's like, excuse me. And
oh my God, that's bad.
Of them that, I did work out, back in the day. I've shown a couple of them. Yep, I could work out.
Yeah. And I always like to try to invite new people too, since the practice is at the gym. Like, somebody's just working out. Hey, we got practice today. Come over. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what?
I've had go ahead.
No, go for it.
I've had women come up to me at tournaments, like when Matthew was arm wrestling or whatever, come up to me and like, can you show me how to do this? And I always pick one. I see one that's pulling or whatever. I had one. Oh my goodness, I saw her. I don't know how many times I've lost touch with her since he's not pulling anymore. But I would get with her and I would show her things and show her how to do this, and she just loved me to pieces. And I just love that way of being able to help others, just like I did with you. It's like, just, here, let me show you something. Let me, just introduce yourself and say, look, let me show you something. And I just love doing that. I still love to do that.
I'm really behind because I'm not good at showing anybody anything. I'm always so happy if my son is there and there's some new ladies so he can show them the rules and all of the tricks he knows.
Right, exactly. Let me get a charger. I'll be right back. I just gotta get the charger.
No worries. That's so excited about. I didn't realize that you had to do a super match for the Queen of the Mountain. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, at the end to see who wins from both of the weight classes.
Right. No, that's so cool.
And it was so cold. It was like 37 degrees and it was outside. So it was really hard to stay warm. Like waiting for everything for the finals to come.
I thought it was in California. I didn't know y'all had cold weather in California.
Yeah, it was in the mountains. The mountain queen. The mountain. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, that's so cool. I kept seeing all the pictures and all the people that were going to be there, and Kane just did an amazing job of promoting it and
I know.
making me wish that I could do a second trip to California in less than
Oh my God, that would have been so fun. You would have been cold. Well, you might not have been as cold as us because you're used to the cold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I would have been fine. I used to live in Minnesota.
38 degrees and you're pulling outside. Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
So how did you keep your arm warm?
Well, there was a heat lamps and
okay.
I kind of like everybody was got their hands on them, and then you could go inside the bar a little bit and get warm and then come back out.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't forget that one, but it was worth it. You just don't realize that you're having so much fun while you're there, At first I thought, well, I'll keep my jacket on and just take my elbow off for the pad. But then I realized that would make me it'd throw me off because I never would wear a jacket with one arm out. So, and then as cold as I got, as soon as you get up there and your adrenaline's going, you forget about it. You're not even thinking about it.
Yeah, you warm up pretty quick. Real quick.
Yeah, but I thought it was important to stay warm and not get injured. Like I, grabbed a bar to band and was trying to warm up pretty good, but
right.
Yeah.
Do you put anything on your arm in between matches?
No.
Yeah, I was in the 80s, so it was still leg warmer days and stuff. We would get a leg warmer and put your arm in it. Like icy hot was our thing. We had icy hot. If I went somewhere and I didn't smell icy hot, I wasn't at a tournament. I didn't even feel like I was at a tournament. So we'd rub that icy hot on, put that arm warmer on, and that would keep your arm warm for sure. So if you ever have a chance, get your leg warmer, put it on your arm.
Good idea. I know I see people with those, and I guess I hadn't even thought about it.
Oh yeah,
I wonder if somebody probably will knit one for us.
There you go.
Yeah. At one point, they were so
you should have
popular
just stolen one of Cody Merritt's from WSA, Stephanie.
Oh my
God. They were so popular that they would start, how you got stuff, merchandise at the table. They would be selling arm warmers and stuff at the table, and everybody be buying the arm warmers, which is basically just leg warmers.
For like a toddler.
Yes, exactly.
No, that's so fun. So is there any you go to a lot of Texas events. You've been to Alabama sit downs, which was awesome because I got to meet you there. But as far as like the bigger stuff that they have now, like King of the Table, Knuckles Up, East versus West, some of those bigger promotions, if there was one that somebody would sponsor to take you and you just go and enjoy VIP style, which one would you pick?
Oh, goodness. Ooh, I don't even know. Any of them. If somebody wants to send me, I'll go. Somebody wants to pay for me to go, I'll sure go. Just let me know. I'm retired. I can get up and go anywhere. So I don't know one in particular, but I haven't traveled much out. That's one of the things I wanted for my son was for him to go to bigger tournaments in other states and stuff and experience what I had done. But I haven't been to any like that, except I drove to Alabama for that one, and that was pretty cool too.
That's awesome.
Do you still have your passport?
I'm sorry. I still have my passport, girl. Yes, ma'am, I do. Because now I do cruises. So yeah, I got a passport.
How long did it take you to get to Alabama?
Oh my gosh, like almost 12 hours, 10 hours.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yes. It was a long time. Most of that was getting out of Texas. It takes a while to get out of Texas.
Yeah, you drive 8 hours and you go the wrong
Still in
way.
Texas most of the time. Not going that direction, but most of the time you are. Like I didn't drive to Lubbock. I drove to Dallas and then flew to Lubbock. But if I'd have drove it, it'd have been a good 10-hour trip. No, and still be in Texas.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry, we got a big
I
state.
drive 10 hours and I go through about 6 or 7 different states.
I know.
Well, I think it's 10 hours to get to San Francisco from San Diego. I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long drive.
California's big too. Yeah, that's a long
California
drive.
is long. But I mean, if you go the other way, like Texas is like big this way.
Yeah.
So like it's like 10 hours, 10 hours, 10 hours, 10 hours.
Yes, exactly.
Like 15 hours, but then it's like 2, 4, 6, 8.
Well, Stephanie, I look forward to seeing you somewhere, meeting you sometime. Maybe I could get at a tournament that you're going to be at.
You need to start planning now to come to the women's round robin and see all the ladies. That is an excellent question, and I will get back to you.
Okay, let me know where it's at and when it is. Okay, and maybe I can make that happen.
It's April 26th, and it'll be right now it's scheduled for Kentucky, but I'm not gonna say more than that. Don't count on it being in Kentucky.
Okay. I might could make that happen though. That's not too far.
Yeah. So if it's not in Kentucky, it might be in a state that's close to that though. So it'll be in that vicinity.
All righty, that'd be cool.
But yeah, but then you can meet all the new ladies and Angie Bath.
Right. Just get to
Angie
meet
Bath is pulling, so you can see Ron.
Oh, okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what about the Arnolds? Are you going to Arnold's? No,
I'm not planning. I don't have a plan to go to Arnold. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're retired, that didn't seem like a vacation thing. Like to walk around at the Fit Expo. Our vacation
I can make it a double trip. I can like go do something wherever it is and do the tournament. Go for the vacation part and do a tournament.
Yeah. Lucky, you're going to Arnold's, right?
TBD.
Oh no.
To be determined.
So wait.
There is literally 3 events next year that I went to or that I planned on going to that fall on the same date as something else that I'm supposed to go to. And the Arnolds required me to take about 3 days off of work, and I only have 1 personal day. So yeah. TBD.
I can understand that.
I did qualify though. So I am qualified for both arms for the Arnolds. So I'm definitely still promoting it. I still think everybody should do it and go, especially the ladies. But yeah, we're getting it. We're figuring out the schedule and all that jazz.
There you go. Well, maybe it'll work out for you.
Hopefully, but you can't. There's just too many daggone good events, and all my friends need to stop having events on the same weekend or too close to each other. So, or well, not even my friends, just decent promoters with great events.
Right.
They spread it. They need to just spread it out, so it works with my schedule.
See, back in my day, there wasn't all the tournaments that there are. There was, like each state had some of their own local tournaments, but the big tournaments were either nationals, stand up or sit down, and then sometimes WPAA would have their tournaments too. So it wasn't as complex as it is now, where there's so many tournaments going on all at the same time. So it kind of cuts down on how many people you have at each tournament. I mean, you can't go to everything. So,
Right.
yeah, but back in the day, each tournament would be huge because you'd plan all year to go to sit down nationals, or you'd plan, because you had both of them in a year. So you'd plan to go to one or and the other one too. So,
Right.
but
Right.
now
And
there's
I
so
think
many tournaments everywhere.
right. And I think that's just one of those things where all the promoters kind of agree that there's just way too many fish in a little pond, and there's only 52 weekends in a year.
Exactly. That's true.
And so when you have, 8 promoters pulling 4 events, well, that's 24 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, they're going to overlap and fall on each other. And so,
And yes, and then it limits, I mean, like, especially when you have limited resources or whatever to be able to go to all these, because now you pretty much have to travel wherever you go to a tournament. So,
right. I mean, true. I mean, like for me though, VAL hosts 4 tournaments. So if I want to just do, if I want to do 4 a year, I could easily just stay here and, hang out. But,
right.
on the flip side, like we have 1, 2, maybe 3 women that show up. So for me to want to pull other women, not just the ladies in my backyard, like I have to go out and I have to do this. Well, then, now I've have to decide, well, if this is a VAL weekend, am I staying in my backyard and saving money and pulling the same ladies, or am I headed to California?
That's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I had to get out of Texas. There wasn't anybody that would pull with me. I walked into tournaments and I walk in and they're like, "Well, never mind. I'm not pulling. Carolyn's here." Well, like, come on, let's do this. Let's go ahead and pull. It don't matter. But that's one of the reasons I had to venture out and go to other places, because I just didn't have any competition or anybody that would come to the tournaments and pull me while in Texas. So
Right.
that's why I ended up going to all these other different states and stuff to pull.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those catch-22s, and you just got to figure out what's going to work for you and what you want to get out of the sport and what your budget ends up looking like too.
Exactly.
Uh, so I know you talked about some ladies that you would love to pull now, if you could pull them how you pulled back then. Is there anybody that you're kind of like, oh man, I wish I had gotten a chance to grip up with them?
Oh yeah, I would love to have been able to grip up with Doc Jones more than the 2 times that I did, to get to a point where I might could have done something with her or whatever. I don't know that I would have. But right now, like I said, I really don't know everybody that's in the sport right now, even out of the state, out of Texas, because I'm not into, I don't watch a lot of it or anything, so I don't know. So I can't really name anybody that, yeah, I'd love to grip up with them back if I was back in the day. But the main one is Elizabeth. I would love to pull her. The Sarah Bachman. I have hooked up with her. Just felt her, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, she's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's mainly the one that I've met that yeah, I'd love to have been able to pull Sarah Bachman back in my day.
Yeah, that would have been fun. That would have been fun. I gotta pull her in May. She's just larger than life.
Absolutely.
There's a reason she's the queen
Hmm.
over here, in
Yeah.
America for us for sure. And then I just found out this week that Gabby and Barbara are pulling at King of the Table in this next month. So
Oh, that'd be neat. That would be neat.
that's gonna be another good one. Another good
Right.
female matchup. We have a lot of lady super matches coming up here in December that those two, and then um Merlene and Caroline Carolina Pedersen, and then Liz Mosek and or I say Mosek. That's not how you say it. Mosick, Liz Mosick, and Katie Beatty. So I'm
Yeah.
super
So
excited.
you know all of them. I don't know them all unless I've seen them at a tournament around here close, But yeah, I'd
Right.
love to hook up with any of them if I had what I had back then.
Sure. Oh, for sure. Well, and Carolina, she's from Sweden, and so
Oh,
she's one of the Swedish girls. So that's gonna be a good one right there. Um,
right.
then Thea and Mullen are pulling at East versus West, and then you have I think is it 3 or 4 Knuckles Up. Stephanie, do you remember?
No.
I think it's Sarah, Merlene, and Nadia. So I think it's 3. I think it's 3 that are all pulling. And ooh, that's gonna be a good card too. So I'm happy that promoters are getting on board, adding more than just one female match and all that.
Right.
So
And
I'm
you
really
have to depend on the promoters because, and the thing is, it's still not equal. I fought for equal pay, equal awards for women for the whole time I was in arm wrestling. And I don't think it's equal still now, but it was a big deal back then. The men would win $1,000 and we'd get 100. I was like, what is that? That's not fair. So,
right.
but
Well, and
anyway,
yeah, we really and that's what we try to do too is promote the ones that us as a podcaster on Split, we gotta part the waters where it comes to like should ladies get free entries? Does that kind of minimize or does that promote some of us have different opinions on the free entries thing, but all of us are in agreement of like the awards need to be the same, the payouts if we can get women there, the payouts need to be the same, the weight classes need to be appropriate for who's showing up and
he's
um,
showing up exactly.
yeah, and so we really
A
try to help promote the
135
promoters
pounder
that are
doesn't
doing
want to
that.
pull someone that weighs. I'm sorry, I talked over you. A
No, go for it.
135 pounder doesn't want to pull somebody that weighs 250 pounds. That's just not right. So they need weight classes at least somewhere closer to what you would be pulling.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of see both sides. Like if women didn't have to pay entry fee, then they might tend to come more. But then if they don't pay the entry fee, then how is it going to contribute to the payout money? So,
Right.
it's kind of six of one, half dozen of the other. I kind of see both ways. I mean,
Exactly.
you want to get them in the sport, but I don't think necessarily them not having to pay entry fee is going to make them come. They have to have that in their heart to come anyway. So if you want to
Yeah.
pull, you're going to come. You're going to pay whatever you got to pay. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Right. And that's why I appreciate my league, the Virginia Arm Wrestling League, they tell us that all the time, like you guys can have free entries if there's 1, 2, 3 of you. If there's larger classes and you guys decide you want payouts, we'll do money.
You got to pay
So
exactly.
yeah. And so that's why I appreciate it's never forced one way or the other. We literally decide the day of. Like, ladies,
Right.
we paying? No, we just want the medal? Okay, cool. We free.
But I mean, it does. I mean, the thing about it is the promoters that's where they get their money to make the payouts. It's from the entries, and
Right.
if you got, say you got 10 women that show up and 10 women don't pay the entry, that's like $350 that they wouldn't get to be able to have towards their, if that's how much the entry fee is. So I kind of feel for both of them. I kind of feel for both of them. And I never got that kind of treatment. I never pulled for free in a tournament. Well, I guess I take that back. There wasn't anybody that showed up at a tournament in uh, Fort Worth, and I was there because my son was arm wrestling, and she said, "If you'll just pull, you don't have to pay anything. Just give them somebody to pull." Two people that had paid, so, and I did that, but that was, that's it. Otherwise, we paid the same as the men. Is that was our argument? If we're paying the same entry fee, why can't we get the same payout that they do? So
Yeah.
that's my stand on it. It's like if we're paying the same, we need the same payout.
Yes.
Just like when they started the over the top tournaments, it was not the same. Some of them were. Now, the over the top qualifier in Houston, it was $1,000 for the first place, and the women got that much too. And in Billy Bob's, when it was in Fort Worth, it was your flight was paid for, or your room was paid for, one or the other. Your flight and your room was paid for, and that was equal. And that was about the only time we had absolutely equal pay and stuff, because WPA, it wasn't equal for a long time. At the big tournaments, it wasn't. So anyway, it's just one of them things we still fight.
For sure. And yeah, I think that's just one of those things where, I appreciate promoters that are listening and that are, really pushing and that are opening,
Hmm.
not so like, well, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way we're gonna do it.
Right, right.
So I like that it's changing as we change, they're changing, and we as a podcast always appreciate those promoters for sure. Try to shout them out when we can.
Hmm.
Well, very cool. Well, so tell us, we can wrap up here in a little bit, but definitely want to hear your opinion on what's some things that people who are new to the sport really. You talked about the wrist, working on that wrist, and what's some other advice that you would give somebody that's either looking into joining the sport or is in the sport but just looking for some guidance?
They need to get with a group. Either have a group of guys that you pull with, that just get with a group. That's what you got to get in that arm wrestling family. You got to get with some people that are doing the same thing that you are, so they can guide you and they can help you, and y'all all work together and practice together and something, and then go to tournaments. If there's a tournament anywhere within you, around you that you can get to, go. The more access you have to actually pulling in competition, the better you're going to get. And that's the biggest thing. The wrist is a big thing too. Stephanie, work on your wrist.
Yeah.
But the actually just pulling, just getting with the group and just pulling whenever you have, go to practices. That makes a big difference too, a huge difference.
No, I love that. Yeah, and I think that was a big game changer for me when I was able to, get a coach to work one on one
Mm-hmm.
with, but also then get a team that I can go and I
Right.
can trust the guys, and we have, new people that show up that you can play around with, but then you have your like core people that you pull with that you can try new things with. Because sometimes,
Exactly.
new people
And
and new
those
things don't go
practices,
together.
right. Those practices is where you learn the new stuff and you learn the little techniques, and then you can kind of try them and apply them there. And then if it works for you, then you go to a tournament and you try it out and see if it works.
Right.
Then you're pulling against somebody else that you're not necessarily pulling it. So you're trying it on them and like, oh wow, that worked.
No, exactly. Exactly. Well, cool. All right, Stephanie, I know you're dying to ask her a question for a story.
Well, I don't know if I'm dying about the story, but maybe I'm thinking about the tables and what it like. I've seen a table that has like the circle things for your elbow. What kind of what was your favorite table, or did you have the same ones?
No, I like the not a circle. It was like a cup.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
the rim of it around and your elbow fit
yeah,
down in it. That was my
yeah,
favorite. That's my favorite because there's so many fouls nowadays. You know the elbow fouls and stuff. All that we didn't really have all that as much because the cups were made and if you came out of that, you definitely could tell you came out of that.
yeah,
Excuse me. But I like those because they were just easier to put your arm in and just pull with and stuff. And it was easier to keep your elbow in them. To me, sometimes the little square ones, it's just one little wrong move and you've already pulled back on off the back of it. So
yeah.
I prefer those. And that's pretty much what we had most of the time. Because like the over the top tables, that's how they were. They had the little cups in the middle. So that's my favorite. Some of
Did
these
you go?
now, it just seems like it's just go ahead.
Did you go to the over to the top tournament? Did you pull in it?
Yes, I got eighth place in Vegas. Yes.
Are you on the
I went
movie?
to the
Did
very
you?
first one in Beverly Hills. I went to the very first one. I got third place there. Then I qualified in Houston to go, and I qualified again in at Billy Bob's in Texas to go. So yes, I went. The only thing the over the top, it was a production. It definitely was a production. It was not so much conducive to an arm wrestler per se for the tournament. They were there for the movie. The people that put it on were there to make the movie, and it wasn't. The arm wrestlers were kind of just on the back burner thing. Of course, some of the guys and stuff, and you know, pretty much the little skinny pretty girls, were actually in the pictures in the movie. But I pulled at like 2 in the afternoon for one time, and they just kept spreading us out. They didn't have like a running of it. I pulled it like 2 in the afternoon, and I didn't pull again till like 3 in the morning. So it's kind
What?
of hard to keep a sock go. Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep a sock going with that much in between times to pull. And I had some very very tough competitors, but I ended up getting eighth place there out of about I think there was about 40 of us, and I ended
That's
up getting eighth
awesome.
place. So I felt like I did pretty good, but even Doc
Definitely.
got beat.
Oh wow.
Oh
How
yeah,
did
he got.
Carolyn Fisher do? Did she was in that, right?
Yes, I don't remember. Girl, I've slept since then, so I don't remember the places that people got. But yes, she was there. It's like almost every arm wrestler in the biz was at the over the top finals in Vegas. I mean, there was a bunch of us. We were all there. I got to shake Stallone's hand, and I said, "I think thanks for what you're doing for the sport." Of course, he don't remember me, I'm sure, but he would remember me.
You're unforgettable. I'm sure he
Oh
remembers
no.
you.
Took a picture with his wife at the time, Brigitte. It was fun. It was a great time. It was a great time.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's beautiful. That's so exciting. I was
Was there
thinking
any like
It was
sorry, I just
no,
why
go,
does
Stephanie.
that movie
go.
makes me think about like a drinking story. Like I can imagine somebody playing quarters with beer or something. Like I know you've got some good stories. You know what I'm talking about,
Oh
right?
my goodness.
You do, right?
We were in that huh?
You know
I
when
got
we
some
play
good stories, but it wasn't necessarily from no, we didn't play quarters, but it wasn't necessarily from the arm wrestling tournament because the tournament was so long that day and so, drawn out, and it was just exhausting. It really
Yeah.
was exhausting for men and for the women. But uh yeah,
Did
afterwards we
they
pretty much went our own separate ways, and I stayed a few more days and had the vacay then.
That's awesome.
And my first time in Vegas, I had the vacation after that. So
How old
Nice.
were you?
oh gosh, that was in 86, I think. 77, about 27. 26, 27.
Oh, that's a perfect age to be having a vacation
Yeah.
in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and my
Now,
thing
all
is like
places,
getting 8th out of 40 when you're less than 3 full years in the sport. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
yeah, I was amazed. I was amazed. Exactly. I was amazed. But um all out of all the states and stuff I've been, I don't know. None of those were vacays. You know, we would fly into the airport, go to the hotel, have the tournament, the next day fly back out. So I've been to Albany, New York. I've been to all these Connecticut. I don't know nothing about none of these places except the airport and the hotel we stayed in. So now when I get to go to the tournament, I can kind of make a vacay out of it, you know, and get to see more stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog. I told you they sometimes like to interrupt the show. Well, very
Well,
cool.
Lucky, I am pretty much done. If y'all have got any other questions for me?
No, I'm good. Stephanie?
Oh no, I think that I hope they get to meet you soon. Maybe in Texas if you're at one of the tournaments over there. We'll have
When
to
you're coming
see.
to Texas, you make sure you let Lucky know so she can let me know, and I'll make sure I'm there. Okay? Because I'd love
Okay,
to
that
meet you.
sounds good. Yeah.
Looking forward to meeting
And
you.
then definitely come to the round robin because we want to see you
I'll
there.
try. You let me know when it is, and I will definitely try to be there. I can make that a
Okay.
vacay. I can go see the
Yeah.
art.
There you
Cool.
go. There you go. I love it.
Exactly.
Well, very cool. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for also the awesome stories. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and just for your willingness to come on the show with us tonight. You're amazing.
So are you, girl. Thank you so much for what you do. It's so nice to meet you, Stephanie. I can't wait
Yeah.
to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Okay.
Tune in Friday night and Saturday night. We have back-to-back features, so it's a full Lucky podcast week. So I'm super excited for Friday night. We'll have Liz Mossick and Katie Hankey on, and on Saturday night, we'll have Eric Rasson from Canada. So it's going to
Cool.
be some fun, action-packed podcast coming up. Again, thank you for tuning in tonight. And you all have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, pull smart, and we'll catch you at the next tournament.
Okay,
All right.
bye.
Catch you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.